everybody, I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just wanted to say, major spoiler alert, we are going to be going over everything that happened in episode 4 of the X-Men 97 series. So if you haven't watched that episode yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to Disney+, check out that episode, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show.
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, joining with me to break down everything from episode 4 of the X-Men 97 series, it's Jon Jon Rico.
Hello.
Hello. I had to practice restraint and not start singing the X-Men theme song.
Super hard to do.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, episode 4. This was really cool, and we both noted it when we were kind of taking notes for the episode and everything like that. That we, classic form where we kind of got short stories, which is awesome. And I always bring this up for the Bad Batch on how I applaud, the Bad Batch writers and stuff like that to be able to have these showing us multiple storyline progressions at the same time type of thing and being able to like balance all the characters and being able to do this. This is a perfect example of another series being able to do that. And doing it their own way, their own classic way, where we kind of get mini stories in like the length of a full episode. We get kind of 2 half episodes, shorter episodes. So really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed going back to classic form. But I had to touch on one thing, and I couldn't resist when two things. First one is Jubilee logic. Brand new gaming system, brand new game. Never heard of either one of them. Just magically in her room all of a sudden, must be a present for me. Let's turn it on. It's just like, this is horrible logic when you have, just enemies out all the time. And not 5 minutes before that, everyone was poo-pooing the idea of going and playing video games. So I would have just assumed no one was going to buy her video games. And so if a random video game console just all of a sudden appeared in my room, probably not going to touch it. That's just me. The other thing is pop culture reference. Have to do this. It felt like Jumanji's, like X-Men's answer to Jumanji, basically, because they got sucked into the video game. And I immediately just yelled out Jumanji. I was like, this is it. And he even had elements of like the Matrix when they answered the phone for the first time in the phone booth, and then they
there's little nods. There's nods to other stuff in there for sure.
Oh, I loved that. There's so many little Easter eggs, and I know we're getting more into that, in takeaways and stuff like that. But yeah, I just had to point out that stuff for like pop culture references and everything like that. But Rico, what were some of your quick takes from episode 4?
Yeah, I really dug the way they kind of split up the stories into 2 different. One half is telling the Mojo story, and then the other half is telling the first part of another story. So I really like that they have this idea that where they have stories they can tell that necessarily won't take up a full half-hour episode. So okay, we can fit it in here, and then we can just start telling another story at the end of it and like start setting it up for the future. So I think that's a really cool approach on their part. And it reminded me a lot, definitely, of my childhood growing up and then our childhood growing up in the 90s, where we would watch shows like I first one I thought I would like the Rugrats. You'd always get like 2 separate stories within one episode, and they'd have like the intros for each little episode too, and then a lot of shows would do, the little so a lot of nostalgic factor there, and but it also leaves you like wanting more of like both sides of the story. Like I definitely go to watch an entire episode of just the Mojo thing, just like there's just a couple of Mojo stories in the past animated series that are great. So it's just really cool to see that character. But and then of course like the Lifedeath one, like you're left wanting to see the resolution of that story, but it's left on such a great cliffhanger. You're just like, okay, cool, they're gonna resolve this at some point and has something to look forward to. So yeah, I really like the idea of like even not necessarily having 2 whole mini stories, but like splitting up half of one story and then saving it for another time. So you can be like, yeah, well, okay, well, you saw that first episode, here's the follow-up to that like a couple weeks later.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally with you on that. I would have totally enjoyed, full of either one of them. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, leave the audience with wanting more is basically what the
Yeah.
motto is of these half episodes. But you want to get to some big takeaways?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to kick off big takeaways only because exactly what you were saying leads so perfectly into what I wanted to talk about is this is exactly what I wanted when, I was talking about wanting to, see this journey that Storm was going to have to go on to regain her powers and to, to unlock whatever she had to unlock to kind of, get her powers back and like this quest that she was going to have to eventually go on and stuff like that. I didn't want to all of a sudden, half the season from now have her just re-enter with her powers or anything like that. So I love that we are getting this. We're getting, some of, the full mutants like X-Men over here, and then we have, progressions in Storm's storyline. And I'm hoping maybe not every week is a half episode type of thing, like 2 half episodes, but I am hoping that, we do get these progressions of Storm's journey throughout the season type of thing to really show us, what she has to go through to regain her powers and to then, go back to the X-Men and probably help them in time of need. I'm assuming that's, what this is going to build to is she's going to come back when they really need her the most type of thing. But I really love seeing this and seeing how this is not going to be an easy journey. As we've seen from this episode. But yeah, really love that. I mean, Storm is one of my favorite X-Men just in general. And so like I love getting, episodes that are kind of more centered around her. But I think this was the perfect amount of that because just like I said, it left me wanting more. And obviously we're going to get more moving forward type of thing. But Rico, what were some of your takeaways from episode 4?
Yeah, I really like how they kind of just had this like personal story for her to set up, and that's like, especially because the first one is such like an action heavy, crazy thing. We kind of
Yeah.
get like this little cool down for the second story, and of course, we already know that's gonna get crazier later on. But I digress. But yeah, one of the things I really loved about I want to talk more about specifically just the first half of the Mojo episode here, but I really loved the whole like love letter to Konami 90s arcade games in this episode. I mean, of course, we grew up playing a bunch of them, whether it's games like the Simpsons arcade game or Ninja Turtles arcade game. There was an X-Men one, of course, that was out, and that they, of course, they references in here, like when you're fighting the Sentinels and all that, all the different
Yeah.
little levels that you go to, I think is really awesome. There's a lot of great Easter eggs just in the entire sequence in general. Whether they're going back to Genosha or they're going to the Savage Land and stuff like that. So it's just really cool how they're able to play around that and also play around with like the 8-bit formula as well. One particular scene is I like when Jubilee does like her big mega power move, and it's just like, whenever you play those games, it's always like that one move that you kind of save up your power to hit, and it's just like boom. So I really like that. I also like the integration of I think it's Abscissa. Abscissa, I think is her name, is the older Jubilee
Right.
version of her. I really like the way they integrate her into the story and just how they use her. Um, I always like when they just bring in like older versions of characters to interact with younger ones. I always think of Days of Future Past,
Yeah.
the Xaviers. So I was like, it's just really cool when X-Men does cool stuff like that. And just the Mojo character itself is just a wild ass character. Like I like that he's not a mutant too. Like I like that X-Men also just deals with like wild alien characters as well. Like they really go out there when it comes to their storytelling, and this is a perfect example of that. And just one of my favorite things about them is like just the detail of his animation. One is how he has the little things keeping his eyes open, like Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
And then, and then of course near the end of that part of the episode when he reveals that he's just been sucking in his belly the entire time, and he goes back to his old school self that you remember him from the original episodes. He was just really funny and chaotic, and I loved every second of him.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that was awesome. And yeah, just like you said, I loved, the references to side scrollers and references to, the X-Men arcade style video game and everything.
Mhm.
It was awesome. Perfect episode or mini episode, I guess.
Oh yeah,
But, you want to get to some predictions?
absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Why don't you kick off predictions?
Okay, so really the big thing I'm looking forward to is seeing the follow up to Life Death Part 2, of course, and because it ends on a wild ass note when
Yeah.
that owl that she's been watching in the sky the entire episode turns out to be this demonic owl bird that's like known as the adversary. And you know that like when they leave off on that part, that she's in for some wild like mystical journey stuff, and you know that's going to be the real like nature of where she's going to get her powers back too. It's going to come from something natural and mystic, not necessarily from science, what Forge was trying to help her do, right?
Right.
So I kind of like that. Like it's like trying things with science first, and then kind of going to like the faith and spiritual side to it after the fact. So I think it's a really cool avenue to kind of go down with that character, especially again, like we love how I love the focus on Storm this season, and just a lot of the most powerful scenes of the season have come from her. So you already know that it's like whatever's going to happen. And I wish it would be a full episode. I'm pretty sure it'll be part of another like two-parter if I have to guess. But I just know that that's going to be a wild like 15 minutes of just her delivering really great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I am all here for it. Yeah. I mean, I really all I have is to pretty much to agree with you. I loved, that we did get, these two half episodes, and just like you said, I am excited to kind of see this progression of the Storm story arc. And maybe we get a full episode. Maybe they'll surprise us. Maybe we get, a second parter here, and then, some more progression on her story for a future two-parter episode type of thing. I'm here for all of it. I think it's awesome. I love that they gave us this. It's such kind of like just like we've said this entire series, it's such that nostalgia feel back into this like kind of mini format from when, just usually saying like our childhood, when like other cartoons would kind of do that little tiny half episodes type of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, love it. Cannot wait to see what happens next. I'm hoping we get the second part of this sooner rather than later.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I really want to see what happens.
And I hope you get something focusing on Forge as well, because they dive into a lot or they hint a lot of his history here, and they also show like a lot of like photos. Of course, we see one of him in his X Factor team, which is a really cool photo. And I want to see like almost an episode like centered around him and that team. Like if you're gonna do like some kind of like flashback episode or something, like do something where you're following Forge. And then telling some cool stories with some other like kind of off the wall characters. I think I saw like Multiple Man was in there, Quicksilver was in that photo, Wolfsbane. So there's some, again, it's a great way to bring in other characters and also just tell different X-Men stories.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here for everything. I can't wait to, whoever we're gonna see. I'm happy. But as we always say, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of episode 4? And when do you think we're going to get part 2 of Storm's mystical journey, I guess, at this point, with the adversary? There are no wrong answers. And who do you want to see as a cameo potentially this season? And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Popping Off presents That Recap Show.